Welcome back to Brain Power Unlocked. I'm your host, Dr. Kevin Mays. Today, episode 6, Becoming a Leadership Genius. Now, we've talked so far about the three brains of a leader: the caveman brain, the robot brain, and the genius brain. Now, today we're going to focus specifically on how you become a leadership genius, how you become an inspired executive that brings out the best in others while helping you lead in a way that's intentional, that's purposeful, and that has an impact of design. Most leaders move through the world having an impact, but they don't recognize that our personality, our leadership style has a shadow. And for everything we believe that we're doing right, there is a negative effect. Heck, it takes us back to Newton's laws of thermodynamics, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The same is true of leadership. And the thing that got you here, recognize, will not get you where you want to. And that is often of great leaders, great founders, and folks who are really good at producing are good at getting things done, rolling up their sleeves and working hard. However, that is not always what the organization needs. Sometimes when we're at our best, we become the vehicle of disengagement. And so to recognize that we have these three brains, the genius, the robot, and the caveman, and your job as a leader and an executive, first and foremost, is to turn your attention from the outer world to the inner world and to develop that self-awareness. With self-awareness, you're in a position to access your inner genius and then to help others do the same. So when we talk about self-awareness, what is it you're really aware of? Well, remember, the self that we're talking about, that leadership vehicle that you have, is nothing more than your patterns of thinking, of feeling, and behaving. And know this, that your thoughts drive it all. With your thinking, you create emotion. With your thinking, you create behavior, and your behavior creates results. So if you want to change the results in your organization, you must change your thinking. So what's it look like in real leadership? So the question we have to ask is, so what? One of my favorite questions. So what? Well, what's it look like when we're in caveman mode, right? When leaders are in caveman mode, we rationalize, we justify, we blame, we make excuses, we become frustrated and irritated and angry and maybe passive aggressive. When leaders are in caveman mode, it happens because some attachment they have to what we believe is right. I have a self-concept. And when I see things in the world that challenge that self-concept, it evokes the caveman within. And that caveman is a defensive beast. The caveman is positioned to allow me to be right, making you wrong. Now, that kind of self-awareness is difficult to see. We don't often see the content of our mind. Instead, we see the knucklehead that we're perceiving. And we can't believe that they're doing that thing again, or whatever the story is. We get cut off in traffic and we can't believe what an idiot they are. However, in the other car, they don't see themselves as an idiot. They see you as the idiot for driving too slowly. So we have to recognize that our worldview is not the worldview. It's not the correct worldview. In fact, it is just a form, it's a pattern of success scripts, I call them, that we become attached to over the course of our lives. And those success scripts, man, that's the key to our suffering. The success scripts are attachment to those, the things we do well. When we become attached to that and keep doing that same thing again, it's going to set us up to struggle. Because as I said before, what got you here won't get you there. So recognize that robot brain, what it looks like. It looks like irritation in your own mind. It looks like frustration. It looks like when you get pissed off at what somebody else is doing. And in your mind, every time you're complaining, every time you're frustrated about somebody else's stupidity, about their ignorance, it's not them, it's you. You are in caveman brain. Learning to become aware of that is absolutely a huge step. It's a milestone on your conscious leadership pathway. to become aware of your thinking. Now, this is a tough one because, again, it's the lens that you look at the world through. When you can notice that your mind is complaining, rationalizing, or justifying, when you're out of your power zone, as I like to say, you're blaming, making excuses, or you're defensive, you are the one who's triggered. You are the one whose caveman is in charge in those moments. Similarly, you can notice the caveman through the physical sensations in your body, because without exception, every time the caveman comes to the surface, something physiological happens within your corporeal structure. Your breathing changes, your temperature changes. You might have a flash of adrenaline. You might have tension, pressure. I'll feel my ears burn. My neck will get hot. I'll get the flash of adrenaline. My chest will get tight. And then my behavior shifts. And this is another way to become aware when the caveman is in charge of you, your behavior. You behave differently when the caveman's in charge. Some might become more argumentative. I find my language becomes sharper, shorter, more concise, more direct. Others, on the other hand, may become passive or passive aggressive. They say, no, everything's fine. And then they twist a little bit in the end to make the other person recognize how stupid they truly are. Recognize there's no truth and there's no helpfulness in any of this. All of this is just the caveman in charge. So number one, be able to be aware of when the caveman is in charge. In fact, I worked with one executive recently, founder of a large organization, but could not receive feedback. In fact, we did entire feedback of the executive team, and there was some great learning for him. However, he could not take it. He became defensive. He made excuses. He blamed. They don't know me. They don't get it. They don't understand. They're a bunch of knuckleheads. That was his perspective, because he was so attached to being right. In fact, being right was the secret to his success, and it had got the company where it was, but it was undermining the company in its ability to scale up. He had to do things differently if he wanted to grow. If he wanted to upgrade his leadership, he had to change. This is really about upgrading your leadership, because the robot and the caveman that we come into the world with, it's our software, it's our programming. It worked well for us then, but now we're operating on DOS programming, and we must upgrade our leadership. You must upgrade your leadership. If you upgrade your leadership.com, you're going to have access to our latest book, Lead Yourself First, where we will walk through in detail the formula that will help you become the exceptional executive. The executive that really makes a difference in your organization, the executive who lives life on your terms, and to truly use your executive function in your brain, that is your genius brain, to live life according to your rules, to get the result you want. So many leaders get stuck in robot brain, right? Robot brain. We keep doing the same thing we've always done, and we know we're right, because we have this deeply ingrained pattern of belief and self-concept. But we keep defaulting to that over and over, even though we don't get the result we want. If you are falling short of getting the results you want in your organization, in your relationships, in your life, in your business, anywhere, recognize it's because there is that sneaky robot brain is undermining you in your ability to get the results you want. It's not a product of the rest of the world. It's not the tax man. It's not your boss. It's not your wife. It's nothing and nobody else except you being stuck, being lodged with that robot brain in control. What's the robot brain look like? Oh, I see so many leaders who do it well. You know, they're the best, hardest workers. They're the pleasers. They're the pleasers in such that when they say no, they feel guilty, and they don't like feeling guilty, so they never say no. So they take more. I know you do this too. Talk to you recently. You are the one who takes too much on. You are the one who rolls up your sleeves and gets stuff done. But it's at a detriment, because that is what got you here. And that's not what's needed to grow your organization forward. Instead, you must access genius brain, and you really have to ascend to the top of the mountain in your organization. At the top of the mountain, you have the broadest view. You have the furthest view, 360, the entire organization, and you see into the future. It's a truly strategic perspective. However, what got you here is not that strategic perspective. What got you here is your ability to roll up your sleeves and get work done. Recognize this as a leader. Your job is to continually think. It increases as you evolve into leadership. It's not doing, it's about thinking. It's about bringing people together, creating an engaged environment, thinking and aligning people towards a strategic vision. Real leadership behaviors, real executives have the ability to disrupt that robot brain. The hard thing is that's the software that allowed you to survive early on when your brain was forming 1 million neural connections a minute. You got these patterns hard fought and they worked for you. But now here you are, staying in your comfort zone, doing the same thing you've always done and getting the same result. But here's the great news. You can become exceptional. However, it will require you to be uncomfortable. And when I say uncomfortable, I mean to step out of your comfort zone, which simply means changing how your brain is wired, right? You're going to start to implement some thinking patterns and some behavior patterns that haven't been normalized yet. They haven't been created and wired into the neural fabric of your brain. And as you do that over and over, your comfort zone, when you first step out of it, it's uncomfortable. And over time, it gets more and more comfortable because you expand your comfort zone. I worked with one executive recently who was he was the most brilliant mind of the organization. He was good at being the go-to guy. He was good at getting stuff done. The hard thing is, when he ascended into the executive position, he stayed in that role. He kept leaning on those same strengths, even though those strengths weren't what was needed in the new role. You see, in the new role, he had to ascend to become a strategic thinker, not to be the guy who had all the answers, but the guy who could bring the answers out of the staff around him. So it's absolutely essential to be able to, first of all, recognize within yourself when the caveman brain is in charge, recognize it through your thinking, through your feeling, and through your behaving. When the robot brain is in charge, you're in your comfort zone. And often the way to recognize when the robot brain is in charge is that you're not getting the results you want. It may be comfortable and you may know you're right, but knowledge that you are right is often the quick route to failure. You have to stop being right, stop having the answers, stop being the person who is the go-to, stop being the responsible one, stop being the pleasing one, suspend all of that identity that you have to suspend, that hard-fought wisdom that you developed over the years, and step into a new way of being. And this happens when you access your inner genius. You see, when you access that prefrontal cortex, your executive functions in your brain, then you really move into a position where you can think with true choice. This is the only way, the only place you can operate from true choice. It's about being intentional. And when you are intentional, that is non-reactive, you're not on autopilot, the caveman's not in charge, the robot's not in charge, but you're taking each step consistently based on intention, based on choice, based on the state of non-reactive equanimity in a way that's aligned with your vision, aligned with the vision of the person you're becoming, aligned with a vision of who the organization is becoming, regardless of how it feels. Your job as a leader is not to feel comfortable. Your job as a leader is to move in alignment with the vision of the organization, with your own vision of what's possible for you, and to rally the troops to create engagement along the way. In this way, you create an engaged organization, and this is an industry-changing organization. As I've worked with organizations over the years, when I watch organizations where not only the individual leaders start to take complete accountability, ownership, and responsibility for themselves, when they start to behave in a truly conscious and intentional way with awareness and presence, it starts to cascade through the organization. And then you get the executive team on board, making a commitment to being present, to being aware, to being intentional, and to aligning with the vision. It is an unstoppable force. And I'll tell you what, these organizations are the ones at the front of the pack. These are the organizations that are gaining the most profit, that are gaining the market share, that are making it through recessions, coming out larger than they were when they went in. I've worked with many organizations to help them do this. The other organizations, ones that are reactive, that are caught in a scramble, guess what the symptoms are? High attrition, burnout, low engagement, and a loss of vision. You know, people want to be part of something larger. It's a human quality. And your job as the executive is to help clarify the vision. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to develop your presence and your awareness. In fact, in the next 5 days, I'm going to challenge you to shift into genius mode. And there are some techniques that have been designed by neuropsychologists that we know will absolutely shift how your brain is functioning in the moment. I think of it as a 3-step process: pause, check, and chew. The pause, check, choose model. Now, what does this mean? Pausing. When you pause, you're bringing yourself back to the present. Remember, I talked about that core formula of conscious leadership has 4 elements. I call it PAIV, the PAVE model. Element 1 is presence. When you pause, you come back to the present moment, here and now. You'll get caught up in the fantasy of your mind about what could happen, about what did happen. You don't get caught up in the emotion that's anchored to those perceptions. Instead, you come back to here and now, in this moment beyond that transcends all of those perceptions. That's number 1, pause. Number 2, check. What are we talking about when we check? Oh, that's about awareness. You pause, become aware, and then check. Check in with yourself. What am I experiencing right now? Notice the patterns of thinking playing out. Notice the emotion. Notice the sensations in your body. Now, from this place of non-reactivity, of just noticing like the objective observer, now you're in a position of choice. You see, when you access that genius brain and you operate from true choice, you open the door to a greater potential that you never even knew you had. I promise you. I've worked with dozens upon dozens of leaders and watched them transcend what they ever thought was possible and create greater revenue numbers, create greater satisfaction in their life, create happier relationships, deeper bonding with their children, and lead in a way that is a differentiator. Because if you want to grow your business, you will not do it without growing yourself. It all starts with leading yourself first. That's why I wrote the book, Lead Yourself First. Simply go to upgradeyourleadership.com and you will find access to this book. If it's not out yet, we'll have a list where you can sign up to find out about it, because this book is based on decades of experience working with great leaders around the country and around the world. And guess what? It's not the Kevin Mays show. No, this is what they did that work. This is what when I worked with great self-aware leaders who led at the front of the pack, when I worked with great leaders who had a self-awareness discipline, who practiced meditation, who had a spiritual path, and they believed leadership and spirituality were one and the same. I'm not talking about dogma or religion here. I'm talking about entering in to a relationship and a dynamic with true presence. Relationship dynamics are like an alloy, like 2 metals when you bring them together. And the reality is you cannot change other people, but I'll guarantee you this. When you change what you contribute to that relationship, the whole alloy changes. The final result changes. And that's where the power is. That's why leading yourself first is essential. If you want to become best in class, if you want to keep doing what you're doing, that's your business. If you want to become the best in class, that's my business. You've got to check out Lead Yourself First. I wrote it for you in mind, with you in mind, to help you become the best version of yourself. So the 5-day challenge is to pause, check, choose. Practice presence, awareness, and then intention to make the decisions that help you become the leader that you need to be to have the business that you want. You see, you're not going to create the business that you want without changing who you are. The business that you have right now is a result of the leader that you are. And as you evolve and you change, the world evolves and changes with it. So here's to your success. 5 days, pause, check, choose. Simply pay attention and be aware. Come back to the present, be aware of your patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving, and then make a choice. Make a choice to be better. Make a choice to level up your organization, and make a choice to be a conscious leader.